Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Heroic Efforts. Thank you all for joining us yet again. We have a very special, exciting second part of our episode today. But before we get to that, I am sitting here with my co-host, Mr. Martin Fisher.
Hi, everybody. We're going to talk about Lone Ranger today.
Jesus Christ.
And sitting here as well, as always, is Mr. Nick Talamante.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sorry the audio is going to sound like shit on this one. We're transitioning, upgrading our equipment, so we're just going to match the audio to the quality of these movies today.
And I am, of course, your other co-host, Andy Foreman, and it is my responsibility that we are doing this today.
Yes.
I apologize to my co-host in advance. But unlike the subject matter of this episode, our Pulp Hero episode was so popular that we're doing it again. Today we're talking about some more contemporary, and by that I mean decade-old, Pulp Hero reinventions. Today we're talking about the Green Hornet and the Lone Ranger. So, yay! Yeah, we're as excited as 2011 and 2013 audiences were. But just for a brief intro, we've already done our intro on the Pulp Heroes on the last episode, but just to bring everybody up to speed, where all the Pulp Heroes had gone at this point was they were not around. They were dead. Nobody cared about Pulp Heroes at the time. Dynamite had them in the comic books, so obviously the few, niche fans that still really were into these things had the comics to go with forward, but films like this were just in constant development hell throughout most of the early 2000s. The closest we had gotten to Pulp Heroes at the time was Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which was not received that well, and Captain America the First Avenger, which has pulp roots but is a superhero film. It's just homaging pulp and not pulp proper. But after the success of Iron Man, studios were mining every superhero and comic book property to turn into movies, including the most C and D list characters imaginable. Like, they were just whatever was a comic book, they were turning into a movie.
This was around the period that, oh my god, Shane Black announcing they're going to do a Doc Savage movie after Iron Man 3 was the big pulp news.
Yeah, oh my god. And then, of course, Disney's planning the Rocketeer 2, which never happened.
Of course, yeah.
And then, the Phantom in the future was supposed to be happening and all that kind of crap. Like, it's when these things are so old and and some of them might even be in public domain. I don't remember off the top of my head, but these things are constantly in production. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Is like one thing you'll notice if you look through the history of Pulp Heroes is there's always something going on. There's always some dumbass Zorro on Mars movie getting planned, or friggin' like Dick Tracy, but it's the Old West, or Robin Hood, but it's the Batman Begins. Yeah. Like, these things are always in production because someone just has to make money off of it by having it in production. That's basically what's going on. So the fact that these movies even got made is kind of a miracle, but the end results are anything but miraculous.
Well, it's miraculous that they got made. That's the big miracle here.
Yes, exactly.
Against all of our wishes.
I mean, are you fellas ready to just jump straight into them? Because much like the filmmakers of these movies, who gives a shit about setting anything up? Let's do this.
I'm ready to jump into a pit of razor blades instead, but let's do it.
Hey, on me, Andy. Let's just bite the bullet. I'm ready to get fucking stung, bro. Give it to me. Give me the Green Hornet.
We've been completely wasting our potential. This city needs our help. We could be heroes. Here's what will make us different. We will pose as villains to get close to the bad guys. That way, no one will suspect we're really the good guys. I want you to take my hand, and I want you to come with me on this adventure.
I'll go with you, but I don't want to touch you.
Okay, you don't have to take my hand, but will you come with me on this adventure?
Okay.
Yes.
No, but the Green Hornet had been in development hell for freaking years. Originally, it was supposed to be like a much more serious movie in the early 2000s, and had George Clooney and Jet Li as Green Hornet and Kato.
Holy shit.
I would have been down for that.
Yes, with a
That would have
Kevin
been
Smith.
tight as hell. What the hell?
Yeah, with a Kevin Smith written script, which we will get to at some point. It kind of just nothing happened to it until Seth Rogen took over, and then of course it becomes much more of a comedy.
Yes.
You guys remember when this movie was coming out?
Well, this would have been 2011, right? So this is at like the peak of like that kind of comedy troops popularity. Was late 2000s,
Yes.
early 2010s. So
Yes, this is post Superbad. This is
this is when James Franco and Seth Rogen being buddies was like at like major filmmaking duo. It is an insane time to be alive, my friends.
Yes, but this is also pre-Seth Rogen producing things like The Boys
Yes.
and Preacher.
And writing the best Ninja Turtles movie. So
Exactly. This
different
was
world.
pre him doing really good comic book movie stuff. And as it turns out, when he's just involved in producing them, they turn out pretty good.
yeah,
When you have him as the lead,
Absolutely.
it turns out a little different. I mean, do we even want to go through the plot of this? I mean, I know, Nick, do you have the plot?
Nick?
Or-
Oh god, I'd be pulling from memory on this one.
Let's go for it because I want to hear
just
how
saw
bad
it.
it gets. Let's go.
Okay. Oh Jesus. Okay, let me see if I can pull this together. Just came off of this, but it was so fucking long that like I must have fallen asleep at least twice during it. So anyway, the story, the long and short of it is we have James Reed played by Tom Wilkinson, who was actually in both of our films.
Yeah.
Funny enough, and he's a joy. But anyway, he plays James Reed, who's like this head of this big newspaper company, and he has his shithead rich boy son, Brett Reed, played by Seth Rogen. And one day, Tom Wilkinson or James Reed gets fucking taken out by a bee. Goes out sad, goes out like Stan Chera, and just gets fucking stung like a bee. And then Seth Rogen or Brett Reed is inheriting his media empire. And from there, he literally wakes up and is like, why does my coffee taste like shit? And that's when we're introduced to Jay Chou's Kato, who is this like badass mechanic, martial artist, slash barista. And they team up after having a bonding experience being like, yeah, my dad was a dickhead. Yeah, your father was a dickhead. They have a bonding experience. They go and decide they want to become vigilante superheroes. So while they're doing their little, anti-hero heroics, they hire Cameron Diaz, who plays like a secretary of the big media company, and they're, pushing stories about the Green Hornet, this mysterious new gangster, or I guess.
What, Andy?
hero.
Did you want to put a joke in there?
I must butt in. They do hire Cameron Diaz, but they mostly just sexually harass her through the whole movie.
I'm surprised, like James Franco didn't have a bigger role in this movie. He would have been perfect for those scenes. He should have been the Green Hornet.
Okay, low key, James Franco would have been a better Green
Oh
Hornet.
yeah,
in
of
this.
course. Yeah.
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 And Cameron
both
Diaz,
overall
Cameron
performance
Diaz,
and also
beautiful
harassing.
woman.
Yeah.
Beautiful woman, far too old for him to pursue. Everyone would have been safe.
Hey, don't matter. It don't matter.
So
Doesn't matter how many
so
rings
anyway,
the tree
they-
has. She's still a beautiful sequoia. So
absolutely, look, Cameron Diaz, forever a dime.
that's right.
But for our heroic duo, they get their whole shtick of being like, well, we're gonna be the bad guy. We're gonna pretend to be the bad guys while we're doing good things, i.e., murdering other bad guys. And the body counts in this film are insane, but we'll touch on that later. Anywho, so they start doing the little crime wave, all the while the magnificent Christoph Waltz playing Chudanovsky, the like real LA crime boss. They're starting to fuck with his business because they keep literally murdering all of his meth makers and all of his distributors and everything like that. And eventually that culminates in them having like a big shootout and fight, but not before this weird like love triangle, but not really, because it's really just like Seth Rogen and Jay Chou trying to like get at Cameron Diaz slash like harass her. And they have a big falling out because of that, and then they eventually reconcile at the end because it turns out that the DA was actually trying to get the newspaper company to push stories that reduced the crime wave, the Biden crime wave that was going on in LA in 2010 movie. And then yeah, then they have a big shootout with Christoph Waltz, and then that's the movie. As you can tell, super fucking invested in this magnificent plot.
My brain molded two different movies together because I completely forgot that Christoph Waltz was even in this movie, and I thought it was Val Kilmer, but then I realized I'm thinking of MacGruber.
No, you're thinking of a far better movie.
Which is a much better movie than this.
How could you forget Christoph Waltz, the iconic Chudnovsky, with his stupid ass double barrel fucking pistol? God, don't get me started. That's the plot.
just we'll touch on Christoph Waltz in a little while, but the overall point to be made is nothing happens in this movie.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Is nothing happens, and it's not. I'm probably the biggest fan of this movie out of the three of us, just by default, because I don't want to put a double-barreled pistol to my head and blow my head off while I'm watching it. But it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
The problem is, okay, so a running theme on our show is we'll talk about something that maybe is, just okay or downright sucks or whatever, but we'll talk about a previous draft of the script, right? And we'll say, well, where they started from, what the original idea was great. And you can see how it just got whittled down by the studio, blah, 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 blah. The thing is this script is like a really boring script you would hear about that was like 8 creative teams ago. And if you like followed the paper trail, you'd get to this and you'd be like, oh, this is like the most boring freaking thing, like the 80s Spider-Man movie,
right?
These things where or the pre-Donner Superman script. It's just you're like, oh, thank God they didn't make this. This is the most boring version of this movie possible, because they try to do the comedy thing while also having like a lot of action in it. And for what it's worth, the action isn't terrible.
It's fine.
I would say the action. Yeah, the action's okay, particularly
it would be better without those annoying slow motion sequences.
Oh my god!
Yes, and that's something we should bring up as well. Is that this came out in 3D?
That's why we don't have a second one.
I remember that. I remember that now, because I was so baffled like rewatching this. Not only because it was boring as shit, but also like I was baffled by like some of the editing choices and then the sequencing, like the way the camera did. Like when Kato, I didn't mention this in the thing, but like Kato, they never explained. He just has fucking supervision, and he like can slow down time, and it like highlights enemy objects in red like a fucking video game.
He does like a worse version of the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes thing.
Yes, literally,
yeah.
Both visually and just in execution. It's a way shittier version of that. You're absolutely right. But I was so fucking baffled because like early on in the movie when we first introduced to Kato busting out the superpower, he would, let's say he's like jumping over a car, like the hood of a car, to like stop a bad guy from swinging a pipe on Seth Rogen's head. All of a sudden the car would like turn into like a bunch of, I don't know how you describe it, like magic mirrors kind of thing, where it's just like an infinite bunch of like cars, like shimmering behind the vehicle he's on, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I was so confused by that choice to visually represent that. But now that I know it was, or remember that it was supposed to be a big 3D film, that's why they did it like that, and that's so fucking stupid.
It's really bad. I mean, like, okay, like everyone who was alive at this period, like y'all remember, like the early 2010s was just like this hyper fixation on 3D. That was the future of cinema because Avatar made a lot of money, so everyone was trying to do 3D, and every single time it was always just some post-conversion crap that they didn't actually film for. Here, I don't know if they filmed for it, but they certainly edited for it, and those sequences are just abysmal, and they ruin what could be pretty decent action sequences, like when they're fighting like the thugs or whatever early on in the movie, like that first like fight where it gets pretty like bloody and shit. That is good if you don't have all of these annoying bits of Kato going wah 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 and using his bionic man vision. It's so stupid. I don't understand the reasoning outside of 3D. It's got to be visually like everywhere, so it's coming right at you. It just looks horrible. And when you watch the movie in 2D, you get no effect outside of just being annoyed by how long the sequence is taken. Not everyone wants to buy Green Hornet on 3D Blu-ray.
The fact that I have it notwithstanding.
Oh my god.
Oh my Jesus Christ, Bandy.
I got it from a thrift store.
This is even worse. Cause here's the thing. like they're early 2010s. They were This is a really dog shit period.
Yeah.
I think just in general, but especially in like culture and media, just a really atrocious and abysmal period. And one of the many reasons or things that contribute to like just being such a shitty time period is that we didn't even get like the charm of like early 3D with like the shitty like blue and red like cardboard glasses. Like there's a charm to that. You know what I mean? Like there's some reminiscing and nostalgia that you can you can basically project onto that era or that kind of aesthetic because you had to film things in that weird kind of blue red filter, and like so again there's a charm to that. The 2010s introduced like just the shitty plastic black framed like 3D glasses
dig into
with
your
the clear,
ears,
with the clear frames on, or the clear
Andy's
lenses
got his
on
own
them.
pair
Oh
on
my god, he's
now.
busting it out right now.
This is what he wore when he saw it.
I have them right next to it. I have them right next to my bed. I don't know why. They're just on my bedside table.
And it just sums up how like amazing and just dog shit this whole period was, because those glasses, like, you had to wear them. They're uncomfortable as shit. They give you a fucking headache, and I say that as someone with 20/20 vision, and like they give me a fucking headache wearing them. And then like Marty said, no film that actually had 3D like even filmed for it. It was just a dog shit post conversion thing. And when you would take off the glasses, because they would be blowing your eyes out in the theater, you'd be like, oh, you just made the film slightly fuzzier. That's it.
Yep.
Like, it didn't do anything.
And here's the thing. I remember this period just because we're never going to talk about this film specifically because it was overblown. But like the first Avengers movie, when that came out and they were showing it in 3D, I went to go see it at the ArcLight in Pasadena. And oh my god, the 3D glasses they had for it, they decided like, oh, it's got to be special because it's the Avengers, it's a Marvel movie. So we're going to take those shitty plasticky 3D glasses and put a thick rubber layer to make it look like an Iron Man kind of design on it. But what ended up happening is that it would drag the glasses down your face while you're watching the movie because the rubber's too heavy. So you'd have to hold up your glasses while watching the movie, and the rubber is too heavy for your ears, so my ears were literally folding while I was watching the movie. I couldn't wear it. It sucked. 3D was a horrible idea. Damn all of you.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about the 3D era than we will about this film because there's nothing to talk about with this film.
Boring.
Yes, here's the thing. We can talk about 3D. We can also talk about the early 2010s of just soulless fucking studio movies that were just abysmal to watch. And I'm thinking like Clash of the Titans, and I'm thinking like fucking not that this is a horrible movie, but like the RoboCop reboot, just soulless. That movie's okay, but like
you bring up the Clash of the Titans is a good example of that, where I'm just like, I remember seeing that, and that was the big summer movie for like 2010, I think, or it was around that period. That was like the big one everyone would talk about. Release the Kraken was a meme and all that shit. It was a different time. Yeah, and then I finally watched it. I'm like, wow, this is fucking boring, and nothing is going on, and this looks like garbage. I'm one of those weird people that's like, Wrath of the Titans, though, that's a blast. I had a fun time with that one.
Hey, well, this is also, later on.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's the era of like the Conan the Barbarian reboot with Jason Momoa, just a completely sloshless Conan movie that unfortunately killed like all Robert E. Howard adaptations like up to present day, unfortunately.
John Carter, baby. That's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah. Well, of course, we could just go on and on and on, but like Iron Man 2, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Pirates of the Caribbean 4. Just absolutely abysmal. And Iron Man 2 it's not fair to put it in. That's better than a lot of these, but it's...
Yeah, but still, it's not great.
Disappointed. G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra.
The best way to describe my feelings of this period is... Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate it.
We will get to that. But so the Green Hornet falls right in with that. Yes. Because again, let's just get into it with Seth Rogen as Britt Reed, the Green Hornet. I gotta put alongside David Harbour's Hellboy as the most unlikable protagonist in a big budget movie of at least the last 20 years.
Certainly for something based on a comic book. I'm just like, oh my god. Because absolutely. Because David Harbour, I'll give him this benefit. Like, that's not a miscast. He would have been good in the role if he was given better material. Seth Rogen, as much as I do appreciate him as a performer, and there's certain films of his that I do actually really enjoy and find funny, this is like a total miscast where they're just like, we have to tailor this movie to his personality.
Yeah. To his shining comedic talent, like, and he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. I'm not going to take that away from him, but like, this ain't The Mask, where they're going to build everything around Jim Carrey's comedic talents, but it works. This is sort of like, okay, we have a mediocre action movie. Now let's make it more annoying by having this guy try to be funny through the whole thing. You know?
Well, and he's trying to go for a
nailed on that. No, go finish.
I was just going to say, and he's trying to go for. It's weird because, and there's a tonal clash in this movie constantly, but it's like he's trying to give a more comedic performance for most of the movie, but he's also like got these moments where you see him like trying to be an quote actor, and it never works.
Well, he's trying. They're trying to do the Tony Stark thing with Britt Reed, where he's just this funny but irresponsible asshole who's going to learn responsibility and become the hero or whatever. But the problem is the first Iron Man kicks ass, and like that's the movie is tailored around that character arc, and Robert Downey Jr. is perfect. I shouldn't explain why Iron Man is better than the Green Hornet. You know why it's better. Like, you're supposed to do the reason. Like they're trying to do that, and as older audience members now, because like, you know, I was in middle school when this came out, but also like with some time between the film and now, you can kind of look at the similarities in protagonists post Iron Man, and there are a lot of unlikable guys who aren't funny.
Yep.
Who then learn to battle the villain, and it's just, it never works. Iron Man is the one time that arc actually works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Seth Rogen baffles me. Now, granted, I went into this film because I had no interest in it, because I had already seen it before. I went into it with just purely kind of the mindset of like, okay, I'm just going to give this a quick refresh and also be a little more analytical so we can talk about it on the show, right? So I tried giving this film the benefit of the doubt going into it, and I was just immediately just like baffled by like the choice. No, I mean, just the script overall is just so weak. Like the dialogue is really poor just across the board. But like specifically Seth Rogen's performance here, I'm like, what do we even do? It felt like, I don't know if you guys agree or relate to this. It felt like rewatching this, I was like, does Seth Rogen not even want to be here? You know what I mean? Like this feels like he walked on set and he's just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna like phone this like way the fuck in. But then, like Andy said, there'd be weird moments when he tries to be a quote unquote like real actor. But because the entire film he's just been like doing like, again, just really like shitty, like low effort, if you can even call it comedy. That I'm just like, wait, what's going on here? Like, what now you're choosing to try to like put in like a modicum of fucking effort in this performance? Not that I expect Oscar-worthy performances of the Green Hornet, but you know what I mean. Like, I for me in particular, the part that really stands out is when him and Kato are riding their high of like after they just had their first heroic night, they just saved like a couple from being like gang, assaulted or raped, and Seth Rogen's on his bed cheering, and he's like doing like the Trump double jerk off fist pump, and he's like, we're awesome, we're so cool, we're awesome. And I'm like, the combination of his just no energy performance and that writing, I was like, what? It jarred me. I had to pause the movie. I was like, what is going on here? Is this just like he's begrudgingly doing someone a favor? Like what? Why is he here? Why did they go with him for this? Like this role makes no fucking sense.
Because I don't hate the idea of the quote-unquote sidekick or the partner being the one that actually does all the work, and you making the script about how this guy is just taking all the credit, and that's where their conflict comes from. And the thing about Kato is Jay Chow plays Kato, and he's really good, but the problem is he's playing the straight man to this really irritating piece of crap, and so all of his effort has to go into being the straight man, and by being this dude's partner, you're by proxy annoyed by him as well. Like everything he does is in response to this really irritating man-child, and I feel like if we had just had like a better Green Hornet that was like taking it seriously, he could have shined in the role more. Is that fair to say?
No, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think that Jay Chow, like I said, I think he delivers like a decent enough performance on it. But when you contrast that, or when he has to stand next to like Seth Rogen's super obnoxious portrayal, it's very, very difficult because, like, to Andy's point earlier, the tone is so all over this fucking movie, man. And I guess it's a good transition to start talking on like that specifically because, like one of the things that contributed to the baffling performance of Seth Rogen as in his lead role is this movie doesn't know what the fuck it wants to be. Like, it doesn't want to be a completely like tongue-in-cheek or I'd even say like cynical like just comedy, quote unquote, corporate produced comedy, or does it want to be like, a heartfelt kind of reimagining of this character? Like, it doesn't know what to do because at one moment it's an action movie, another moment it's like a really bottom of the barrel comedy, another moment it's like trying to walk this fine line. So it doesn't know what it fucking wants to be, and the editing doesn't help either. But the tone, I think, is what really, really jars me. So I'm curious to like if you guys have any insight or any kind of thoughts on that.
Well, I'm sure Andy has insight because he knows all about the production in this movie for some reason. But I just wanted to say real quick. Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick, like, I agree with you guys on Jay Chow as Kato. I enjoyed him. I thought he was he fit the role just fine. The issue is that, like you say, he doesn't have someone to bounce off of because Seth Rogen is just like, you throw something at him and it's just a brick wall, basically. And that's why I'm just like, yeah, man, I really think James Franco would have been a lot better in this in multiple different ways. Anybody.
Jake Gyllenhaal at the time would have been great. Jake Gyllenhaal now would be great as the Green Hornet, but that's beside the point. Ryan Gosling. I'm just naming like famous actors at this point, but literally anybody would have been better.
Right. I just think James Franco, because they're buddies, and he has a cameo in this movie. I'm like, y'all should have just swapped roles and just made James Franco fucking Green Hornet.
Yeah.
And James Franco's like performer, like his little cameo role before he gets blown away by Christoph Waltz, it's actually like decent. Like out of all the performances in the film, I'd probably say it's the best. Like, it feels at least the most natural. Like, everybody else feels so stilted in this. Like, James Franco is the only one that was like, okay. Like, I thought maybe for a second, because it happens early on, I was like, maybe for a second this would be good.
That's got to be the thumbnail edit for this episode. Is just James Franco under the Green Hornet mask. Oh, we can pair him up with Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp and be like, wow, what a couple of stars we got here today. Oh my god. But yeah, so the tone is absolutely 100% a mess, and you're right, they can't agree whether or not it's supposed to be a superhero film in the sense of a pulp hero film, or it is just a comedy. And all I can think of the whole time watching this is just like, man, like, even superhero movie is a better comedy than this. Like, that's a better parody that gets the genre way more than this does.
Superhero movie is fucking hilarious. We got to talk about that at some point.
We'll make Nick watch that if you haven't seen that, buddy.
Yeah, the superhero movie's great. But the thing is okay, perfect point to get into the talk about the plot and stuff is we're talking about the tone. The script is all over the place and the plot goes nowhere is the problem. Is there's no forward momentum. It's the same problem that the two Tim Story Fantastic Four movies have, both of which are better movies than this. Both of which are better movies. But like those movies, it's just sort of like the origin happens or the inciting incident happens, and then the entire second act is just them fucking around, and just not doing anything. That's the same thing with the Green Hornet. Is it's like, well, because Christoph Waltz is a terrible villain in this. He's trying, but okay. Trivia fact: Nicolas Cage was originally supposed to play this role, and it is so obvious that it was supposed to be Nicolas Cage. Much more sense. If you have Nicolas Cage like hamming it up as a gangster with no self-confidence, who's trying to like outwardly project like a badass persona, that works. That is perfect. Because also, Christoph Waltz, amazing actor. I think in movies like this, Nicolas Cage has far better comedic senses than he would.
Yeah,
definitely.
The roles that Christoph Waltz is German, so they don't know comedy. They killed all the funny people.
He's funny in
no, he is. Yeah,
Inglourious Bastards or Django, but that's because Tarantino picks actors very specifically.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. They were just like, they had just seen him in Inglourious Bastards, and the producers went, "We got to get this guy for Green Hornet."
And this is a thing we'll get to. I've mentioned this a lot, but there are going to be a lot of movies on this where we talk about someone does an extremely critically acclaimed performance and then follows it up with some bullshit attempt at a franchise starter, whether it's Ben Affleck in Batman v Superman or Matthew McConaughey in The Dark Tower. I bring that up a lot, but it's apropos. It's apropos. I am going to force these guys to watch that again at some point. But
oh god.
Or Christoph Waltz in The Green Hornet, where it's like, really? This is what you're choosing to follow up Inglourious Bastards with? And it can't be anything more than just, this is going to be a popular movie. You should get in on this. Thank God Christoph Waltz had Django coming the next year.
God he had Django lined up, and then he was going to be James Bond's Dr. Evil. So
yeah, exactly. But
just be James.
Well, just to talk about the plot a little bit. You talk about I know a lot about the production of this. This is one of the first movies where I really learned about the writing process, and that's because, bear with me, Kevin Smith was originally supposed to write this, as I mentioned before. That script got turned into a comic book series by Dynamite. That comic is really good, and I read it before.
Is that the one?
Yeah, I read it.
I think you'd referenced that to me, I believe, and I'd read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one that takes place in modern day. There's a female Kato. It turns out his dad was the first Green Hornet. All that stuff. It is a fantastic comic, and if you read that story just as a film pitch, it's so much better than this. And because it's so weird to talk about, but the Green Hornet was everywhere when this movie was coming out. If you went to Barnes & Noble at the time, there was like a whole shelf of just Green Hornet Dynamite comics. It was awesome. And so I had read those comics, and then I see this movie, I'm like, comic is way better than the movie. And when I found out that was his original pitch for the movie, it just sort of got me seeing how things can get watered down and changed and fucked up and by producers and stuff. And so that's why I kind of it was the first time something sparked in my middle school brain about how much control a writer has over a movie. And again, that's the thing is like Kevin Smith, I'm sure we'll talk about him on this show at some point, but when he's on, and he has good instincts for comics and for certain superheroes. And this is just such a bland shell of the Kevin Smith script.
It's a bland movie, Andy. We're keeping that long silence in the edit, by the way, audiences. I'm making that decision now because that is exactly how to describe the feeling after watching this movie. I watched this about a month ago. I don't remember a damn thing about it. I did not. I think in the moment of watching it, I didn't feel like disdain. I was just like, well, that was an experience. I watched something. But as time has gone on, I'm like, yeah, nothing about it stuck with me. And then thinking of all the performances and the action sequences, I'm like, there's nothing pleasant about watching this. Like, I won't make the decision to watch this again. I know one day Andy's going to like force me to watch it when I'm just hanging out, and he's just going to be like, let's watch the Green Hornet movie again. And, he'll already have me tied down to the couch or whatever. I'm like, I can't do anything. So, it's just a bad experience overall. And I'm baffled to think of like this movie actually made money to a degree. This made like $230 million, which is insane to think about for a Green Hornet movie. And this is, $2011.
Yes, in January of 2011. Yes, January is when you dump your bullshit. Or maybe it was February. I don't remember.
I mean, they did anyway. They did dump their bullshit anyway. But this made money. The issue is that because of the post-3D conversion, this was too expensive, and they just never made another one.
Yep.
This film was just an absolute fucking slog to get through, dude. Like, I said to the guys right before we started recording, so this film is about an hour 48, and then the Lone Ranger, which we're going to talk about next, is like what, 2:45?
Yeah, it's a longer movie. It's like 2.5 before credits. So
Green Hornet felt like the longer movie. Like, both of these films like drag, but like this one really fucking dragged. I'm not even kidding you. I literally fell asleep the last 10 minutes during the final action sequence. That's how bad it is. I was falling asleep. This shit is so fucking boring. Like Andy said, they're just dicking around. Nothing happens. Nothing happens the entire fucking film. So for me, this is the real push.
They're dicking around, and you don't like them. That's the problem.
Yeah. That's the other thing. I don't give a fuck. It's not like they're going on kooky adventures, but like, oh, they're entertaining to watch on screen. They're not. Like their whole dynamic, they both just like mix with each other like fucking oil and water. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, just overall, this is just a baffling film. I knew this shit was cooked when I think in the very beginning of the film, Seth Rogen is coming down with a young lady to his garage, and then they do this weird editing thing where they just speed up the footage, so they're all just kind of like doing this jittery fucking movement, and they do that throughout the film. And I'm like, what the what? Who thought this shit was okay? And then that was strike number one. Strike number two, I saw all the fucking, this is signature for this era too, all the J.J. Abrams lens flares that were going on. And then
God.
three, when they were having their fucking sequence suiting up and building their car and they were playing the fucking White Stripes, I was like, oh, we're super cooked. This is pure 2010 slop right now.
You know what these... I can't remember if I brought this up on the previous Pulp Heroes episode, but you know what this really needs? And this sounds like obvious, but... this needs like a Quentin Tarantino doing this. Like, and what you do is you sort of lean into the antiquated nature of the character or the period setting of the TV show, you know, and what you do is you sort of retrofit this into like a crime movie. You know what I mean? And you basically what I'm talking about is you need that tone. That Quentin Tarantino could bring to it. This doesn't have that tone. I think a big downfall of this is that it's set in the modern day as well, is because something that feels so old, like, should kind of be set in the period setting, and you just lean into it. Because I'm thinking, like, Gangster Squad came out a few years after this, and that's not a great movie either, but at least when you're watching it, you're like, oh, it's like a, you know, throwback to the 50s, and it feels very cozy. This just feels like an obnoxious middle schooler just yelling at you after he drank a Monster. You know, it's just,
Absolutely.
That's the best way to describe
also,
this.
I would be super fucking remiss if, because, you know, as the audience can tell, there are certain standards that we have here at No More Talking Productions. And, you know, I've championed in a bunch of these films, Acme-ass weapons. You know, I'm a big fan of Acme-ass weapons. I think they can be a lot of fun and really add to your film. This doesn't have that. This has very stupid weapons and, like, you know, equipment and whatnot, but it's sauceless, absolutely sauceless. Whoever thought Christoph Waltz double barrel gun, and let me describe it for you, audience, if you haven't seen it. It's not double barrel like a shotgun. It is quite literally like if you took a Desert Eagle and just copied both barrels and just kind of duct taped them together so they're side by side, but there's a weird space between them. So he has just, it looks like he's holding two pistols. It's the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know how anybody like let this clear the cutting room floor in the writer's room to be like, oh yeah, double barrel like gun, but it's actually just two guns. But like, it's dumb. It's very, very silly. The Hornet fart gas gun that Seth Rogen has is kind of whack, especially like with its bad CGI effects.
Yeah.
And then like their car, like on paper, I should have been down with this because I'm the guy that likes the Jonah Hex with the chain guns on his horse. But like the Black Beauty, which is like their car, when it like pops up with like the machine guns and the flamethrower, it just does nothing. I feel nothing for it. It's like completely sauceless. And so to Andy's point earlier, yeah, this absolutely should have been set as like a pseudo period piece, you know, or at least, you know, a couple of decades before, because then this kind of weird Looney Tunes technology jump would kind of fit the aesthetic better of that time period. Because when they're doing all this goofy shit and then they're in East LA and motherfuckers got like, you know, Mac 10s and, you know, 911s, they're just, you know, busting at them. Like, it just looks weird. It just looks weird to have these guys with normal ass guns and, you know, contemporary clothes fighting a goofy motherfucker with a stink gun.
well, exactly. The whole movie like has the same color palette and visual like style as like End of Watch, which is weird. Like everything looked hyper realistic, which even in like, for example, Batman Begins is heralded as making Batman more serious, right? That's a very stylized world that he's in.
Yes.
It's just they're treating it a lot more seriously. And that's the difference. Is Batman Begins doesn't have, like you said, it's not an East LA with it's like it doesn't look like End of Watch. Like Gotham has some visual distinction to it. The fact that the next two movies look like Chicago is notwithstanding. But But that's what the Green Hornet needed, is a little bit more of like a Superman the Animated Series style looking Los Angeles. You know, like just something like the characters can exist in, where it's not like just shit you see on the news every single day. Because if you're going to do stuff that you see on the news, you have to treat those characters with dead seriousness. And I'm sorry, but the Green Hornet and the Shadow and the Phantom are not properties that you should take on like America's war on drugs with. Like, I should not take on the subject matter with. Punisher, Death Wish, maybe, but like these guys are too goofy to set it in like an actually realistic contemporary world. But I digress.
Overall, like it's interesting looking into this a little bit more, because that's what I've been doing. That's why I've been so silent for a little bit. So, like, the final draft of this script is written by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, who, you know, they've been a creative team together for a very long time. And nowadays, like, they make, like, great stuff. Like, or, you know, it's like, you know, your opinion on The Boys, however shifting that can be based off what year it is, of course, you know, it's well-regarded television. Invincible's really good.
Absolutely.
Preacher, I adored their Preacher show. I thought it was very well done.
Yes, it was fantastic.
Their Ninja Turtles movie they did together that they wrote was really good. You know, he's directed This Is the End, which is like, that's like my favorite comedy from that group of people of stoner comedy at the time. I like This Is the End a lot. So they've been involved in a lot of talented things. And the director is the guy that did, not so good, Be Kind, Rewind, which, you know, is fun, but whatever. But he also did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is a great movie. This is the same director. And it's just, I think it's just a thing of the creative duo, the creative groups that were involved in this just couldn't gel together, and what you get is that stilted, unmotivated slop that comes out of the end of when you have a filmmaker who probably didn't really agree with the script he was given, and the actor who probably didn't, like, who was part of the writing process but probably just wasn't really into it and was getting paid really well for it. This is that kind of movie that comes out from that creative process, is just kind of boring and generic and nothing memorable about it, and everything is just like, okay, I watched a movie, I spent $10 or whatever to watch this, I never want to watch this again. But they already got my money, so this is what it is.
Yeah, This should have come out around the same time as the first Guillermo del Toro Hellboy, again with George Clooney and Jet Li, and treated a little more seriously, and a director that's going to bring some sort of like visual, like production design to it. Obviously, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind has visual sauce to spare, like. But this movie doesn't, and there's no production design to back it up either. This movie came out the same year as Green Lantern. Somehow, Green Lantern is the more interesting and entertaining movie, and has the better visual style, and it only takes place in Bed Bath & Beyond showrooms or airplane hangars.
Right, when you put it like that.
It's either filmed inside a crate and barrel or like a rundown military base.
And it still looks so much better.
Yes, it still looks so much better than the backlot, or not backlot, but just the side streets of LA that they shut down for this. But I mean, there's really not much more to say about the Green Hornet. It's not even a wet fart, because a wet fart produces something of substance. This is like a dry fart where you kind of just go like, did somebody have a protein shake? And then it just dissipates and you're like, well, what's going on with my day?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, and like the viewers can't see this, but like I can see Martin and Nick really suffering right now talking about it. So we should probably move on.
Please, just kill this thing already.
Let's talk about at least a slightly more interesting dynamic duo.
Yes.
Interesting is a good word for them.
Fun fact, in the canon of these characters...
Fucking nerd, don't you dare, I know what you're going to mention.
In the canon of these characters, created by George W. Trendle, the Green Hornet, Britt Reed, is related to the Lone Ranger's John Reed. He's like his great-nephew or something like that. So these characters are actually related.
Oh, fuck
I
off.
know this because I didn't have a lot going on between the years of 2010 and 2023. But
Jesus.
God damn it.
but in my head canon, the Lone Ranger's a prequel to the Green Hornet. I don't give a fuck.
Well, good, Yanni, because nobody else does either. So.
Yes, exactly. But now we're talking about Disney's wet fart of a movie, The Lone Ranger.
There come a time, Kimosabe. One good man must wear a mask.
How are we going to get all the 85-year-olds that show up to this movie excited? Oh, yeah, blare that fucking theme song that nobody remembers. And by the way, I had the thin little dollar DVDs that you used to be able to get from Target. Like, remember those, Martin? Those thin dollar DVDs that you'd get at Dollar Tree and it'd be like Nosferatu in shitty quality?
Yep.
I had the Lone Ranger DVDs with the first 2 episodes of the show.
See,
so
you
I
got
put-
that, and that's like how I got like Tales from the Crypt, the movie, and it was double packaged with Vault of Horror. I got that. I got a bunch of kung fu movies for like $1. It was great. Those double feature discs were great. You're the one that's just like, ooh, the Lone Ranger.
Okay, well, you're the one that watches this movie. He goes, "Ooh, the Lone Ranger."
It's true.
I'm just kidding. This movie actually has a lot going for it. Its main 2 stars notwithstanding.
So,
There's a lot going on.
cannibal
Just
and
get right
white
into it.
beater walking to a bar.
Yes, exactly. For Nick, do you want to get into the incredibly convoluted and bloated plot that the two
God.
domestic abusers just sort of ramble their way through?
Oh, sweet Jesus. I will attempt to just. I'm just gonna give a synopsis because this movie is almost 3 fucking hours long. Like, this is truly Killers of the Flower Moon before Scorsese. But long story short, I'm not gonna remember any names, so we're just gonna go off of this. Anyway, there's a railroad town, and they're trying to piece together coast to coast railroad. And there's a prisoner, and he's being brought to justice on one of the train carts. And chained up next to him is notorious white man, Johnny Depp, playing a Native American man named Tonto.
Hey, he's 1/16 Native American. That makes it okay.
Like we'll touch on that in a second. But anyway, so Tonto is on this train with this known killer, and then this good old boy lawman, the Lone Ranger, soon to be. He's on the train as well. Some heist shenanigans happen, and the bad guy gets away. And it's actually a really, I think, pretty well done train sequence ensues.
Yeah.
And then from there, our heroes kind of get separated, and then they're off, to chase after the bad guy, the outlaw, Butch, whatever his name is. And so once they do so,
Bush Cavendish.
And Collins is the one that's the traitor.
Exactly. So anyway, they're after Butch Cassidy, and they pull up on him in the desert, and mind you, good old boy is with his brother, and he's definitely trying to cuck his brother because his brother ended up marrying his sweetheart. And having a kid with her, but as soon as they like reconnect 20 years later, like he's over here slowly holding her fucking handkerchief and shit like that. Anyway, so good old boy and his brother in the posse, they go after Butch Cassidy. They all get fucking domed, just immediately blown the fuck away. And then Butch Cassidy comes up and literally eats his brother's heart like in front of him.
Bravo.
Just real wicked shit.
Verbinski. Thank you so much for that.
And then he puts a fucking cap in the Lone Ranger. So then Johnny Depp does some light grave robbing, resurrects him and tells him, "You are the Lone Ranger." And from there they start dicking around for like an hour.
That was too good, Nick. That was too good.
Well, unlike Johnny Depp, I actually am indigenous, but that's beside the point. So they fuck around for like an hour and a half, and then they're trying to hunt down Butch Cassidy, all while doing their whole Lone Ranger thing. And it turns out that the head of the, or at least somebody who's a part of like the railroad company, the like really influential man in town, he's actually the real villain because, as we find out, Tonto, he is one day back in his childhood, these two white men, he found them and saved them. And when they were, all healed up, he took them to a silver deposit nearby Tonto's village. And from there, the men slaughtered everyone in the village and, left Tonto by himself to kind of deal with that. And then those men vowed in 20 years they would come back to, steal all the silver from them damn engines. And it turns out both of those men were both Butch Cassidy and the railroad, baron or whatever you want to call him.
Butch Cassidy
played
and the railroad baron. Hell yeah.
Played by Tom Wilkinson. Again, there's that connection. So yeah, and then the Lone Ranger is just being a bitch the entire movie, but then eventually they get to do some Indiana Jones shit at the very end. They save the day, whoop-de fucking do. That is the synopsis. Yeah. It's almost mint.
So are we ready for the hot takes, or what are we gonna do?
Okay, so Martin, you jump in because you're this movie's strongest soldier.
I fucking love this movie.
Why do you like movies where white dudes play indigenous people?
Well, if anyone's gonna do it right, it's gonna be the white guy.
the persistently drunk white guy.
The persistently drunk white guy who beats on production assistants and very possibly his wife. Thank you, Johnny.
Jesus Christ.
Listen.
Okay, so Mordecai himself is the Lone Ranger.
Oh, not Mordecai. Listen.
Yeah.
So when this movie came out, I completely blew it off like everybody else did. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this fucking movie in some stupid fucking, wannabe fucking Marvel movie or whatever. It's from Disney. They're just trying to make another blockbuster franchise. I'm not gonna bother. The trailers look like garbage. I'm not gonna go see this. As the years went on and things trickled out where it's like Quentin Tarantino's like, this is my favorite movie of the year. And I'm like, excuse me, sir? Excuse me, sir? So that trickled out. And then there were other things where it's like, oh, Gore Verbinski did this one? I'm like, I've at least baseline really liked everything he has done. So I'm like, okay, I think I might have to give this a chance soon. Then one day, I'm going through the Disney Movie Club, which if people don't remember, that was the only way that you could buy fucking Disney movies online. Was not on Amazon, not on Best Buy. You had to buy on the Disney Movie Club, which was a Ponzi scheme to essentially get you to sign up, where they would automatically charge your card every month with the new release if you didn't respond no to their email. I lost a lot of money that way. Thanks, you fuckers. So...
Jesus.
At one point, I got The Lone Ranger, and I was like, okay, I'll give this a watch. 2.5 hours, it's going to be a commitment, right? Immediately what I'm hit with is like, wow, this actually looks like a real movie, because you have to remember, this was the period of Justice League, of Thor Ragnarok, of just all of these, the major blockbusters now don't look like real movies at this point in time. So... to see a movie that looks like, oh, there's film grain. I know it's probably post or whatever, but it looks good. It's a visually pleasing film.
There's dust from actual dirt.
Right, yeah. They're actually in the desert and not on a soundstage or using the fucking Mandalorian tech. What? It felt refreshing to watch something like that. And I'll be honest, Gore Verbinski, of course, has an amazing visual eye consistently through everything he has done. He always brings the visuals, whether it's all the three Pirates movies he did, Rango with, Johnny Depp back again, but he was animated, so he couldn't put his hands on anybody. So, it was that was really good. And then Cure for Wellness, which
Rango's fantastic.
Rango's fantastic. Cure for Wellness, which I love and is a visual feast of a movie. So everything he's done, I've really enjoyed. And the Ring movie, of course, is great. His version of The Ring. Mouse Hunt, I enjoy a lot. So this man's always delivering. Awesome. Yeah, this man's always delivering. And I think he delivered what might be my second favorite action film of his. I think this is above the two Pirate sequels, which I also really love. This might, in fact, be a. Let me take off my flannel right now because it's getting a little hot in here defending myself.
Yeah.
This very well might be a 5 out of 5 movie for me on Letterboxd. You might not know if you've never looked at my Letterboxd. I fucking love this movie. I love the way it's shot. I love the performances. I love that it's like a kind of stylized world of like, yeah, it's obviously a Western and everything, but it has very modern sensibilities. I don't know. I just, something about this movie really clicked with me. I really enjoyed it. The cannibal and the wife beater notwithstanding, you know, I can do face blindness, you know, that's fine. I can do what I need to do to enjoy this. I
Especially
love
when it's covered in white crow paint.
Exactly. It makes it so easy. I love the supporting cast. I think they're all great. They had the freaking guy that played Dr. Frankenstein from Penny Dreadful is just some like fucking backup like sidekick to the main villain who like dresses up as a woman and he almost like wants to get fucked by a duck foot. That's great. That's great. That's the kind of shit I like in these movies. It's the off-brand stuff. And Gore Verbinski does not shy away from having Butch Cavendish eat the heart of like his victims. That's badass, man. That's like not something you would do in a Disney movie. Just like when Pirates 3 hanged a child in the first 5 minutes. So, you know, that's awesome. I'm down for that. The action, consistently fan-fucking-tastic because this man's got the visual fucking sauce. That the big 10-minute action sequence that goes on for a while, I am captivated every time I watch that. You make fun of the goddamn Lone Ranger theme being in this, and it's only resonant for 80-year-olds, man.
It's awesome.
It's fucking awesome, and their version of it is so good. Awesome. That part where the music just, you know, hits like, wah, 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 my heart soars. To me, this is like, if you're not going to have Quentin Tarantino do his Western movies, this is literally the only other good option, quite honestly. It's like you got True Grit, Hateful Eight, fucking Django Unchained in this. That's it.
Bone Tomahawk.
Well, Bone Tomahawk is a much smaller movie. Okay, let's not. I'm talking like if you got a budget behind you, this is it, really. And
that's fair enough.
I adored it. I was so blown away with it. I never gave it a chance. I watched it one day at home on Blu-ray, and I fucking loved it. I had such a great time with it. And, you know, yeah, there's a lot of faults with it, of course. Yeah, it goes on probably a little too fucking long for its own good. Yeah, there are sequences that could have easily just been written around to avoid a 15 fucking minute sidestep or whatever. But I really enjoyed it. And I love the freaking, the foil story around it with, fucking century-old Tonto just kind of sitting at the carnival or whatever. And there's that little kid who's dressed as the Lone Ranger, as like a cowboy, and he starts shooting him or whatever. And he goes like, Kimosabe, and he cries. And that, I don't know, I loved all of it. I loved every minute of this fucking movie, honestly. Flaws and all. I loved every fucking minute.
Yeah, I totally forgot that we had that entire sequence in the movie. There's this whole overarching plot of like the movie we're watching is a story that old ass 100-year-old Tonto is saying as he's like posing as a fucking installation in like a little museum tent in like, you know, a fucking 1912 with some like a little punk ass kid that he's just like, you know, spitting all this to.
And it's what makes that being part of the story so brilliant is that he clearly has a failing memory. So sometimes things don't line up. Sometimes things seem a lot bigger than they probably actually were. And I'm like, that's a fun, cool little thing to throw in there. I don't know how they like looked at the final cut of this movie and been like, yeah, this is going to be a franchise starter. I look at the final cut of this movie, I'm like, yeah, this is just like one movie. Like you can't really sequelize this. So
yeah.
Well, okay, so to contextualize this a little bit, and speaking of pirates, this was during that era where Disney was desperately trying to recreate the success of Pirates of the Caribbean, which I will say the only time they really successfully did it was with National Treasure, and then they just let that die on the vine, unfortunately. First two National Treasure movies are bangers. We will talk about them eventually. They are my Lone Ranger. But, again, so, like, did Disney do, like, Prince of Persia? Was that what...
Yes,
did they do that one?
Yep,
yes,
that was
that was also
Bruckheimer production as well.
Prince of Persia, John Carter, this. Like, they were just trying to do another Pirates of the Caribbean. This, I agree with you, Martin. This is probably my third favorite Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It goes Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, The Lone Ranger. Because this might as well be a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It's got the exact same structure. It's got the exact same bloated runtime. It's got the exact same fun. It's got the exact same over the top, just wild shit in it. I really do enjoy this movie. It's just its main problem is it's way too long. That's really is its main problem. Is it just takes forever to get where it's going, and it also came out at the wrong time as well. Like they also spent $300 million on it, which is probably
not the best thing.
A really bad idea.
Nope.
It's like, okay, watch it. Anybody who's listening to this, just Google the trailer, right? The big ending trailer shot is that giant CGI shot of like the train flipping over itself and then them flying at the camera. Why the fuck does a Lone Ranger movie have a giant CGI train blowing up and flying over itself? Like, why would that even enter your head when you're like writing the Lone Ranger? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And why would you make that your big send-off shot for your trailer to get people interested in the movie?
Exactly. This was at a time where people were like, I want Iron Man. I want Thor. I want Superman. All that. I want Christian Bale to come back for a fourth Batman movie.
Yeah.
All this kind of shit. But like, the Lone Ranger is not going to capture people's attentions in the same way that, again, the RoboCop reboot did not capture people's attention.
I just want to mention real quick. So, viewers, we sometimes have an outline. Actually, every time we have an outline, so we can kind of keep track of what we're talking about and everything. And I just want to mention, in our outline, it says, 2013 was a summer filled with Iron Man 3, Man of Steel, Pacific Rim, The Wolverine, and The Conjuring. And then it says in parentheses, greatest summer of Andy's life.
It was a pretty great summer right there. That was great. That was a pretty fucking awesome summer, dude. Like, Man of Steel, like, it's not going to get better than the year Man of Steel came out.
Dude, that summer period of, like, Iron Man 3, which was, you were very hyped for, and whatever your opinion on the twist was, you were very hyped to see the movie. Man of Steel, I fucking adored. I had a great time. Pacific Rim was a lot of fun. The Wolverine is cinema. It was a banger summer. It was a great summer. I had just turned 18. It was great.
Yeah, I was coming off the high. I was a freshman in high school. And so I was coming off the high of The Dark Knight Rises and Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance and and the Avengers. No. But like
Heroic Efforts classic.
Yes, but like earlier in the year, I'm not even kidding, man. Earlier in the year was when you had The Last Stand with Schwarzenegger and Bullet to the Head with Stallone. You had Olympus Has Fallen. It was just, it seemed like every weekend there was something cool coming out that I was excited about. Probably helps that I was a freshman in high school, but that's beside the point. I was excited for the Godzilla movie that was coming the next year. Captain America: The Winter Soldier looked awesome. Guardians of the Galaxy. It was that sweet spot of just every cool, and I know I'm talking like the people we make fun of on this show, but it was when this stuff was new, damn it. Like, all the coolest franchises all had something coming out, and it was fresh, and it was new, and it was exciting, and
it hadn't gone on for 10 years yet.
Yes, and it was the best summer of my life because I wasn't worried about fucking car insurance and dental insurance and getting up at 6 a.m. for my shift. Like,
take me home, country roads. Anyway,
I think that so I had never seen, unlike these two guys here, I had never seen this movie until right now for the show. I always avoided it. I was kind of written it off. I was just like, oh yeah, that looks like shit, and then kept it pushing, and everyone else around me kind of just kept validating that. So upon this watch, though, surprisingly, it's pretty good. It's decent. A lot better than I thought it was going to be. Now, that being said, it's still very flawed, as both these guys have copped to. And it goes on for way too long. That is its primary sin, is that this movie is way too fucking long. I'm not going to hold you, audience. When I first was looking at which movie to start, I saw 2 hours and like 45 minutes. I almost texted the guys like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can push through 3 fucking hours of this shit. But, I got through it. And unlike the Green Hornet, which is only about an hour, almost 2 hours, that one feels like 4. Like, the Green Hornet is so fucking boring, it just feels like 4. This is long, and it definitely you can feel the slog through it, especially in the middle, but it at least is engaging enough where, like, you're keeping up with it. Like, it's an actual fucking movie, at least. You're following along with the plot, even though it meanders, I think, in the second act way too long, it is still at least a movie I'm following. So I'm with them dicking around in those, that unnecessary hour. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. So, like for me, if we can kind of, to give some kind of structure to this, let's talk about like what we think worked. I think this is a genuine heroic effort. Obviously, Marty really loves this. He thinks it's certified. I don't feel as strongly about it, but I at least can see there's a lot of merits in it. So this definitely was a good attempt at doing whatever you really could with this character and this IP at the time. So let's start off, boys. What are some of the highlights? What do you think some of the things that make this such a heroic effort?
Well, I mean, I rambled about it for 20 minutes, but yeah. The action sequences are fantastic. Like that is something
they're really good.
Yeah, they're really good and they're creative. You mentioned like the first sequence where they're on like the opening train sequence and everything. Like it's a 10-minute-ish moment. It's a 10-minute-ish scene. You're setting everything up. You've got the cannibal's character as he's just kind of like this snobbish little like book guy. He just I'm gonna keep to myself, you weird religious people. I'm gonna be over here in the corner, and they're all singing their hymns and stuff. And then you got the freaking outlaws coming in. They freaking just shoot like the pastor in the flag or whatever. That's great. And then it leads all to this, and it escalates from there all the way up to a point where it's like you've got Tonto and the cannibal like tied together, and they've got the chain around their legs, and they're it's just such a creative freaking movie. So many of the action sequences I'm just baffled by, because I'm like, yeah, you can make fun of the fact that there's a sequence where there's a giant CGI train doing a fucking backflip, which is stupid, of course. But I'm like, yeah, what else are you gonna fucking do at this point, honestly? Because like this is 2013 at this point. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do with a cowboy movie that's like a big blockbuster at this point? Wild Wild West already came in and shit the bed, so it's like, what else can you do? So I admire the creativity. I admire that it has Verbinski's very like stylized view of the world, and that like it's realistic and bloody to an extent, as much as you can get with a PG-13 film. But at the same time, characters act like they're constantly in a cartoon, but not in the way that it's annoying, like in the Green Hornet. It is in a way that feels appropriate to the world that it is in. You have William Fichtner hamming it up as a heart-eating freaking supervillain,
Yeah, and he's great.
Again, great. It helps that it's this elevated world with production design that evokes another world. It's not, they didn't just go out to like a fucking dusty backlot.
And the elevated world argument works for me because this is a world where like I could believe that, and I don't like the movie at all, but this is a world that I could believe the Jonah Hex movie is happening right over there too. Because they both have a very hyper stylized feeling. Like this is not reality. There's not we didn't have glowing Dragon Balls blowing up the planet or whatever in Jonah Hex. So but they feel like they both have this hyper stylized view while still feeling realistic enough where you're like, I guess I can find it believable, but it's enough where it has a creative vision behind it. And even the performances, as hilariously miscast as they are, they do pretty good. I mean,
across the board.
Yeah, across the board, and both from the two leads and all of the character actors all throughout this movie. Helena Bonham Carter, she's got a little bit role in it. I thought she was pretty entertaining as the prostitute with the gun in her leg.
I will get to her because I have a whole kind of section dedicated to like that being supporting cast. Because one of the many things I think this film does well. So like I completely agree with like Marty's point. Action sequences are very fun. It's very Indiana Jones-esque, and it's about as entertaining as you can get for, as Marty said, a big budget Western. Like, what the fuck else are you going to do if not some silly, bordering on cartoonish sequences? But because, we have the director that we do, it's very well made. It's executed very well. And they utilize the budget. You know what I mean? You probably didn't need the hundreds of millions for this kind of movie, but hey, it doesn't go to waste. At no point in this movie, even watching it in the year of our Lord 2024, not I don't ever feel like, they were just burning money on this one. Like the CGI holds up like decent. You know what I mean? Like for those big sequences. Like I said, the first 10 minutes, I think if I could give my full like opinion of the film for a second, I think this film, the first third of it is pretty great. Like it's really, really hitting on all cylinders for me, for the most part. Pacing is off, but like overall what is happening in the film, I think the first third of it is great. The middle, the second act, I think is where it really drags. And they're just, as Andy has said, they're just really kind of dicking around and meandering a little bit. The third act, I think, brings it home. There's some fun sequences. They wrap up the plot in a pretty, I think, nice way, and it all works overall pretty well. Again, it's flawed and it goes way too long in that middle section, but overall it's pretty good. Um, for me, I think the performances are great across the board. And then last thing, and this is another, again, no more talking productions, things that we look for, things that are especially a highlight in my book. It has guys. It has goons or interesting side characters, which every hallmark of every good movie, especially in this kind of genre that we focus on, has. You know, Marty already alluded to it, but Helena Bonham Carter, like she plays like a prostitute ballerina who got her leg either chopped off or we presume eaten by the main villain or one of the main villains, and now she has this like super stylish like tattooed ivory leg that turns into a fucking gun. Like that kind of wacky character, like you need that in this kind of film. You know, it elevates it. In my book, as soon as we saw her like whole scene and her bust out the fucking the gat in her like kneecap, I was like, oh, this is sick. This kind of went up another notch for me. And there's plenty of stuff. Marty already mentioned the cross dressing like Wiley like bandit. I love Jesus, the fucking another one of the goons. He's like just a crazy Mexican with a knife. You know, it's really fun stuff like that. So you need those side characters. I think that overall.
Is that the same guy that played? Is that the same guy that played like one of the villains in Quantum of Solace, like the general or whatever? And I don't. Sorry,
I think it might have been. It might have. He looked familiar.
Yeah. So, but anyway, continue.
But you know. Yeah, case in point, it's just this movie has really fun side cast, and I think performances across the board are really strong. Frankly, I think the leads are probably the weakest performances for me personally. But everybody else kills it. The fucking villains, dude. I'm sorry, but like William Fichtner, like he was amazing. He was terrifying.
Yeah,
he was genuinely so good as a cannibal.
Yep.
And then again, we keep.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we keep talking about Tom Wilkinson. He was fan-fucking-tastic in this,
he's
dude.
Great. I love
so
that he spent
good.
so much of the movie trying to fuck the dead brother's wife. He's trying so hard. I have confirmed
that is a man on a mission.
That Jesus is the same actor who was in Quantum of Solace as Joaquin Cosero.
Yes. That's what I was looking up. He gets stabbed in the back by a piece of glass in the Quantum of Solace. Awesome.
I don't want to pull an accidental racism and be like, oh, there's two different Hispanic actors.
I hate to break it to you, Martin, but there's a different white guy playing a Native American in this movie that we were talking about.
What?
Yeah, but I just overall, just to wrap up, like what I think, at least in mine, I'll let Andy get to it. But like just for me, the heroic efforts of that, like I said, you got guys, you got to have interesting side characters. So boom, check mark there. Action sequence, fantastic. And again, with the exception, I think, of the leads, the most part, everyone else gives a star-studded performance, especially the fucking villains. They absolutely knock it out the park. So yeah, this film does a lot right. And then production value. Very last thing, I promise I'll shut up. Like Andy had mentioned earlier, there's actual fucking production value. This looks like a real ass movie. You know what I mean? I was pleasant. Like just my eyes were pleased the entire time. There are sets. There are cool sequences. They're actually filming on location in the desert, like real actual places. And it just looks really good. This is a good ass looking film, especially at the time in 2013, where a lot of it looks like the Green Hornet. This looked really fucking good.
Yeah, this is when that period started to begin, where they stopped filming on sets a lot, and it's grim. It's not nearly as beautiful and lived in as this world feels.
Yes, and I agree with everything that you just said, Nick. I would add one of my biggest pluses for this movie is the costume design. I think there's a lot of really cool looking costumes. I think the Lone Ranger looks fucking badass. This is a minor detail, but that mask looks good. It would have made it. It would have been so easy to make that cloth or something like that, or just actual cloth where it looks like shit. But or some sort of like form-fitting mask, like the fucking Green Hornet has, where it looks like crap. This is more like I like that it's kind of leather cut out of like a vest, and it like it just looks good. And I honestly don't mind Tonto's look in the movie.
No, looks fine.
I mean,
I like that he has like the dead crow on his head and he keeps feeding it. I think that's funny.
Yeah, and also like it
looks good.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that like I'm sure they already knew what kind of ground they were treading by having Johnny Depp play Tonto.
Yes.
So I'm sure the extra face paint on him is intentional.
I was gonna say that I'm sure they already knew what ground they were treading on by doing that casting, but then they went, nobody gives a fuck. It's 2013. No one's gonna care. We're not gonna raise a hubbub by this. I guarantee they were trying to just coast off. It's Johnny Depp. See, it's okay. You
yes,
like
yeah,
him.
exactly. Well, again, we're talking about how this is more of like an old Hollywood movie and stuff like that. This is an old Hollywood movie where a actor's name is what's going to carry the movie, and it doesn't matter what race the character is that they're playing. They're like, can we get Johnny Depp to do it? Cool. Can we get Johnny Depp to be in The King and I? Fine. Like
it's so funny you mentioned. I don't mean to cut you off, Andy, but it's so funny you mentioned old Hollywood. Not just for like the fact that this is like a Western and this is obviously trying to invoke that kind of period with the Pulp thing, but specifically to Andy's point about a white guy playing like, you know, another race. Like I think it's very clear that they're pulling like an Iron Eyes Cody thing with Johnny Depp of like having like a, you know, a white man like an indigenous person. Especially one who like is at least in, you know, to most people passing enough to would be like, yeah, you can see it. You know what I mean? Even though, again, I want to reiterate, he is not Native American. He may have been like adopted by like a tribe formerly, but that man is not indigenous. That motherfucker is mostly English. Like, let's just keep it a buck. But I was just
Oh, really?
Johnny didn't like that.
Yeah, but like I just thought that was just interesting. I just thought that was always interesting to me that like again like knowing like Iron Eyes Cody and just to fill the audience in, he was a Sicilian American man who played like most of his, if not all his career, he pretended to be a fucking Native American. And then you probably seen the gif of him like Native American guy like crying. Yeah, that's him. That's a fucking Italian.
Are you talking about from the fucking commercial where someone throws trash in the ocean or something like that?
Yes, literally. That is Iron Eyes Cody.
Hey, you know what? We should redo that where instead of throwing trash in the ocean, they're throwing copies of the Green Hornet in there, and it's Johnny Depp's Tonto.
I did want to mention there are a couple other character actors in here that like I just want to give a quick highlight to is you got fucking Barry Pepper in here as like a Colonel Custard looking type dude.
Yes.
Yeah, he's great.
Barry Pepper elevates everything that he's in, especially when he's just peppered in there.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Great job. You know, but between this and True Grit, it's like, man, yeah, you got to throw him in your Western, just like give him a big nasty looking mustache and he can do wonders, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he's good. You got James Badge Dale, who's from The Empty Man, which is a great movie, and he's been in a lot of other things, of course. But like, I always enjoy seeing him pop up in things. So it's such a good cast. And then also, I mean, like, between the summer of 2013 and the summer of 2014, I was a real Fichtner fucker, let me tell you. because my man was not just in The Lone Ranger, he was also the White Shredder in the TMNT movie, which come on. I mean, I know he wasn't actually Shredder because they reshot it, but come on, that's great.
I was going to bring that up. Like, when they said that William Fichtner was going to be the Shredder, I was like, fine. Like, who cares? The Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. It doesn't fucking matter. But then, like, when they fucking changed it, and then they just had like some random dude like in the shadows be the Shredder. Yeah. I'm like, dude, like the movie would be better if it was just William Fichtner because at least it's a villain.
Yeah, not just the actual Shredder who's just a dude standing in the shadows with his face completely shaded out, who then just puts on the suit and that's all you see of him the rest of the movie. And then William Fichtner's just like a guy in a turtleneck and he's got a gun. I was a real Fichtner fucker though. I was like, God, yeah, let's go, man.
I mean,
did that start with The Dark Knight?
Oh, it did actually.
Yeah.
He was great in that.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Also, he's in Contact. He's really good. William Fichtner needs more respect. Okay,
he was in Drive Angry. How could you forget?
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, the other really great freaking Ghost Rider movie. He was awesome in that. Listen, William Fichtner deserves the respect that Ben Mendelsohn stole from him, okay?
You know what? That is a perfect point.
That's valid.
That is a perfect point. Yeah. Well, for God's sake, James Mangold, make William Fichtner Anton Arcane.
Yes.
Oh, you still can.
Oh, that's
And then
perfect. But I think
anyway,
we do need to talk about the two leads here.
Yeah.
So
and that's a perfect transition into the bad.
yeah.
I was gonna say, this is what we can end on is the two leads.
Well,
So I have some thoughts, but I'm gonna let you boys pop up.
Okay. Andy, do you want to start it? Do you want me to start it? I'll just say it right now. This is what happens when a cannibal and a wife beater walk into a film studio.
I'll just say this. They don't have the best chemistry. It's not the worst either. It's certainly better chemistry than Seth Rogen and Jay Chow.
Yes.
Yes.
Having said that, these, if you're coming at it from the mid 2011 mind, which is when they were casting and getting this movie ready, these guys are totally fine. Like, they're serviceable. Knowing everything we know about them now, it is really funny that they're the two leads of this movie.
Wait. There we go.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, knowing what we know about them now, it's pretty hilarious that this movie did the double dipped on
Domestic abuse.
yeah. The domestic double dip. Domestic abuse double dip. Dad, for short.
Oh no!
Oh my God.
It's all bad. It's all bad, Andy.
DADD.
Listen.
How do you spell domestic abuse double dip? Dad.
You go through a few years where you're just like, man, I enjoy this Lone Ranger movie. It's kind of weird what's going on with Johnny Depp, but at least you got Armie Hammer, who's just unproblematic, and there's nothing wrong with him. And at least you got one lead who's like giving an okay performance. That's all right. I can look past Depp enough and do some face blindness, and I'll be okay. Excuse me, he's a cannibal. He wanted to be a cannibal. He beat his girlfriends a lot. Okay. I guess I have to do the double dip face blindness on this one.
If it makes you feel better, this movie didn't make any money at all, so it's not like anybody's getting rich off of enjoying it.
Yeah.
12 years later.
That's very true. But I agree. I think they have good. I think they have a decent enough chemistry that can carry the film. Having said that, Hammer is very dry for the most part. I do like certain moments where he definitely turns up the almost Looney Tunes-esqueness of it, like especially that part where he gets shot with an arrow and he just goes and falls over. That's fun.
That was fun. Yeah, that was funny.
Works.
The problem is it's that mistake that a lot of people made in that era where it's like, let's just cast a blind white not a blind a bland white guy with a square
we
jaw.
know that man likes it seasoned, not bland. Come on now.
But let's just cast the most wooden white guy we can find with a square jaw. I mean, this was the era of Sam Worthington.
Oh, yep.
This was when Luke Evans was going to be Dracula.
Yeah.
This was when this is the era of Henry Cavill as Superman. I'm sorry, but it's
a different time where it was more so focused on you fit the aesthetic look of what we want this character. That'll make up for the performance.
This was before we got quirky weirdos like Robert Pattinson to give fucking all-star performances as these characters. You know what I mean? This is before we got Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor and fucking, you know what I mean? Like this is back in the day where.
Sorry, I was just gonna say this is the period. This is where white guys thought they were back before we got the weird whites.
Yes.
This is when white guys thought they were back.
Yeah.
The weird whites of West Virginia. It's a documentary, I think. Anyway.
That's not a pejorative. I say weird whites, like Andy said, like Robert Pattinson, or Adam Sandler when he chooses to give a good performance, and not do comedy stuff, Joaquin Phoenix, like that. I say weird whites lovingly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
You're sitting there with two weird whites. You know it's loving.
Oh really? Oh really? Sorry, Native American, famous Native American Johnny Depp questioned that statement.
Famous Native American abuser.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
He's gonna give that community a bad name. He needs to stop recording when it's like fucking past 11 o'clock at night, because this is just goes insane.
It is 1:15 a.m., sir, for me.
Oh my
yeah,
god.
it's 11:15 for us. I don't know. Do we have much more to say about the Green Hornet besides the fact that there's a couple of fucking weirdos as the leads?
You mean the Lone Ranger?
Go ahead, Nick.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I have nothing to say on the Green Hornet, Andy, but I have one more thing to say about the Lone Ranger. For me personally, again, like the leads, I think Marty's right. They have decent chemistry, and we've already talked about the lot that this film does that I think is pretty good, honestly. The thing that kind of pissed me off, and this didn't help while it was dragging, it just kind of weighed on me more. I know this term gets thrown around a lot to the point where it's almost hackish, but this was, because this is slap dab in 2013, baby. There is so much Whedonism going on in this film. It really pissed me off. Like I fully understand that this character is supposed to be much like I think the Phantom, where it's supposed to be, despite the fact these motherfuckers are strapped the fuck up with full on revolvers and 6-shooters, they don't actually kill people. They have the whole Batman philosophy, and the Lone Ranger's whole personal philosophy is, the law above everything else. He's a big old fucking nerd. He's just like, we need to bring justice, the proper way.
Tussle dance and everything.
Exactly. My biggest issue with this film, this is so libbed the fuck up. This is a liberal ass film. I hate this shit. This is the worst this is the quintessential Whedon ass late Obama period ass liberalism. This is Lin-Manuel Miranda bullshit. I could not stand Armie Hammer in this film, and not from his performance, but just from a writing perspective of this character. It was annoying the living shit out of me. The fact that I'm sorry, again, it's a white dude playing a red dude with white face. You know what I mean? In Johnny Depp. But if we're gonna take Tonto as a Native American man, not once but twice, this yuppie ass fucking white boy came up and stopped him from killing a literal mass murderer and cannibal, mind you, that ate the Lone Ranger's brother's heart in front of him, and he's just like, "No, sir, we can't do that. That ain't real justice." And then they have this whole fucking pedantic sequence where he's just like, I'm not like you. I'm not no savage, all right? I believe in the law, sir. Meanwhile, the entire fucking movie, the Lone Ranger is getting bitched out and hoed left and right. He is fucking up constantly. Everybody is kicking his ass. He is like the soy white boy. He is just a fucking miserable liberal piece of shit. He is Lin-Manuel Miranda in this. And that, it pisses me the off. That's how I feel. So I don't know. In the context of this movie, it was just pissing me the fuck off, dude. I was getting so annoyed. I was just like, can somebody can we get a brother to fuck this guy's wife and get him out of here? All right, because I'm sick and tired of him just fucking things up right now, because he wants to have these liberal ass nonsensical sensibilities about law and justice and fucking sucking off John Locke and shit. Get out of here, dude. This is peak fucking the rules, sir, but the rules.
Everyone's watching the election and everything, and Nick is watching the Lone Ranger, and he's just like, soy ass.
These liberals.
Tonto, we need to fight for common sense gun laws. These robberies wouldn't have happened if revolvers only had 4 rounds instead of 6.
No, you joke, but that's literally what this is. This is peak,
I love that.
Injecting sensibilities into this, but it's so annoying because again, it's the wild fucking west, and this is a movie, I'm sorry, where people are eating people's hearts out of their chest, and then here comes this yuppie ass motherfucker being like, "Oh, sir, we can't do that. We need to have progress in society," and it's the main character, not some fucking nerd that gets capped immediately.
Liberal, limp-wristed Lone Ranger or white Tonto? Which way, Western man?
The lone pussy. You think when they were finished building the railroad, he looked at me like, "You didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen." They're just gonna pull out all the fucking political references.
And you know what? This goes even deeper, because in true liberal fashion, when they think, because there's a plot point in the movie where they think is a bunch of natives that mass a little And immediately, Armie Hammer, who up until this point is just like, referring to Tonto, he's just like, this man deserves as much respect as anybody else. He is also a person. The moment they pull up to what they think is Native Americans fighting back against some settlers, he immediately drops everything, goes like, these fucking savages, we should have genocided all of them, we should have brought more smallpox blankets. Like, he immediately drops the facade in true liberal fashion. So I at least appreciate them being consistent to their ideology.
Oh my God.
What's the defining film of the Obama era? The Lone Ranger.
You can make a good case for it.
Political climate of the time. See, this is where you got to insert that Jaden Smith moment where he's like, "Oh my God, can we talk about the political and economic state of the world right now? Can we watch The Lone Ranger right now, please?"
Yeah, if Obama had put me in Guantanamo Bay and like really wanted to torture me specifically, he would just have Hamilton and the Lone Ranger playing like back to back, but specifically like the middle of Lone Ranger.
Yeah, just every sequence that focuses on Armie Hammer.
Exactly, just a supercut of that, of him being like, "No, sir, the law, but the rules, sir, please."
Tonto, put down that drink.
play the oh, you got this going. That's when he sees him. That's when he sees the Lone Ranger in a voting booth.
You got this going? Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, see, Tonto is over there being like,
we've been abusing the soundboard like Johnny Depp abuses his wife.
Oh my God.
One more time, you gotta throw it in there.
You got this going? Oh, really?
Oh, this was going to happen. We're going to do an episode with a movie that has Johnny Depp. This was going to happen, guys.
Yeah, see, Tonto's
especially because
over
we're
here being
delirious.
like, we should kill this actual like literal cannibal outlaw. And meanwhile, Armie Hammer comes in. He's just like, okay, but like, we're not spreading joy. Come on, Tonto, we have to spread joy. We're not going back, Tonto. We're going
no
forward.
heaven. I wish when that video was going around with all the actors, it just Armie Hammer's in on it, and he's just having some barbecue. It's easier if you try. Oh my God. Are we gonna kill this, Andy? What's going on? You're slowly sinking into the corner.
I look like that fucking Larry David meme. You know that Larry David meme that's going around where he's like super quick. He's like,
He just looks defeated on the Zoom call. Yeah. That's
well,
all
you know
of us
why?
right
Because
now.
that's me. Because I'm like, oh, these movies will be fun to talk about. I love Pulp Heroes, and then it's just the most abysmal experiences.
Like Tony Soprano, I don't like this much pulp, okay?
I like the one that says some pulp.
I like the one that says some pulp.
I mean, do we even really want to do an outro, or do we want to just...
Here, I'll
look, we
read,
can wrap it up.
I'll read the outline notes right now. Both films are contemporary attempts at modernizing old properties. Both are flawed, but one has a cynical tone, while the other is sincere. It's the one with the white Native American. That's the sincere one.
The one with the white guy is the Native American. The sincere one.
That's the sincere one.
The white dude doing red face wearing white face.
You know what? If it's supposed to be like old Hollywood, it's appropriate then,
I'm saying they committed to it. They committed to it.
Oh my God. All we needed then was just to have some white guy in blackface to really bring it home. Be like, it's like old Hollywood again.
It's like old Hollywood, the birth of a nation. Like,
Yeah, no,
that's when you play the Lone Ranger theme again.
Wait, that should have been the sequels when he fights the KKK and he's got the hood on and he takes it off and Tonto's under it like fucking Bad Boys do, and you just hear. What were we gonna say?
Anyway, yeah, I would say, overall, the Lone Ranger better than I thought it would be. It's a real heroic effort. You know, there's a lot of good in it, a lot of merit to it.
Right.
Definitely some flaws, definitely some problematic things about it. And then, you know, the Green Hornet is just kind of dog shit overall. So if you're gonna waste 3 hours of your life slogging through either of these, I think at least the Lone Ranger is, you know, you could get through it. It'd be a decent time. We're all delirious right now, but like, don't let that fool you. That it's actually, you know, it's a fun ride. If you can look past some of its flaws, it's a fun ride. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, as we all kind of like drag ourselves to the very fucking end right here, that was Heroic Efforts. Thank you so much to everybody who's still with us.
Oh, really? Really?
I need to say my piece. God damn it.
Oh, my bad. Go for it. My bad. Don't beat me and eat me. Don't beat me and eat me.
1:30 in the morning. I'm going to take a caffeine pill right now. Excuse me. Because this fucking Sprite Cranberry has no caffeine in it. Oh, there's paper on this one. So, okay. Oh, that tastes horrible. Oh, okay. This is like when
That's what Army Hammer said.
This is like when we recorded a lecture and we were drunk.
Yeah.
Green Hornet is a piece of shit. It is probably the worst pulp hero movie I've ever seen in my life. Everybody that did it should be ashamed of themselves for producing this, and Andy should be ashamed for making us watch it. I do not appreciate this, Andy. I appreciate it when we torture Nick with movie, not when I get tortured. Okay? Because, like all white people, when it happens to me, it's a problem. Okay. Having said that, The Lone Ranger is fantastic. I'm always down to watch it again. I'll probably watch it again soon enough because I just like, it's just such a great movie, you know? Who cares if Armie Hammer probably ate one of like the production assistants and Johnny Depp was probably beating the camera grip, you know? Shit happens, right? You're just making a movie, right? Anyway. Damn you, Andy. No more pulp heroes for a year. It is off limits now.
It's okay.
Yeah, keep your Dick Tracy the fuck away from me, dude.
Tracy away from me. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Heroic Efforts. We really appreciate it, and thank you for sticking around and listening to us talk about this garbage and this masterpiece. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching like all of our episodes and everything. I love all of you, my dear viewers. You know, it's I'm doing my best to make it through these movies, but it's getting harder.
It's getting tough. I'm not gonna lie, it's getting tough.
So,
but and yet somehow we persist. And so, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for tuning in for another episode of Heroic Efforts. You can always, as always, catch us at No More Talking Productions, but you can also follow Andy specifically at
@the_super guy on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can follow my man Marty at
Only McFisherman on X or Twitter or whatever it's going to be called in a week.
And I am Nick Talamante or Monte Nicks at Instagram and Twitter. Be sure to follow us there and be sure to check us out next time for our next episode of Heroic Efforts. We'll see you then, folks. Take care.
Just like the Native American spirit in Johnny Depp, we persist.